Hello everyone, my name is Piper Kenny, and I hope everyone is doing well and making most out of their time at home. I'm here to present to you the performance troupe drag syndrome. So this is a perspective on disability and drag. You might be asking who or what is drag syndrome? Well, I have a short clip that I'm going to show you that gives you all the fabulous details about who they are and what they do.
I'm never nervous when it comes to performing. My favourite part is the dancing and the lip syncing, but mostly the transformation really. I feel really confident to work with different people with disability and that wants to be drag.
My name is Daniel Weiss, and I'm the creative director of Drag Syndrome. Open a little bit. As far as I'm aware, we are the only drag troupe for drag artists with Down syndrome.
I think you're the worst bitch that I ever seen.
The artists I work with are very open-minded, so I asked them, would you like to try to do drag? And they got so excited. They started researching drag, the history of drag, styles of drag.
Hello, darling.
And then they start to develop their own drag character.
She is called Madam X. She's a super spy and she's from the Secret Service.
My name is Justin Bond. Justin Bond is a big flirt, and as myself, I don't flirt that much with other guys because I'm a bit different than that.
The misconception we encounter to do with people with Down syndrome, that they have no mind of their own, that they are cute and sweet and that's it. That's completely untrue. Yes, they are very, very sweet and wonderful, but also they are very fierce.
Mr. DJ, please press that drag button.
I think people with Down syndrome have extra chromosome that brings them extra talent. The hard-working people I've ever met, very, very committed to themselves and their art and their career, which is super inspiring. It's a great opportunity for them to explore and show the world who they are, not what people expect them to be or to do.
I feel that it's great that the audience sees me as a star on stage.
People that criticize us are very close-minded, don't want people with Down syndrome to be part of contemporary culture, and like to suppress the other. We won't let them.
I would say to the people that don't respect us, we have no problem with you, but I have a problem with you because you're not treating us well.
In the end of the day, they are performers, yeah, with extra chromosome, but they are professional artists.
We are a company and we deserve to perform, and we deserve to have people with other talents with disability and coming to join us.
The art world, the culture world, and the world should include people with Down syndrome or any learning disabilities more, because if not, we're missing out on a different way of looking at things. So the more we include them, the richer society will be.
Peace out.
So what do you guys think? Would you go to see them perform? Let me know in your responses. So for the rest of my presentation, I'm going to talk about each aspect the troupe presents. That's Down syndrome and drag. So drag and gender nonconformity have gained a lot of public visibility through shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, Queer Eye, and a lot of other social and political conversations. But just like early American burlesque was sort of created and was built on this idea of rebellion and to sort of to celebrate female nudity, drag's history is actually an act of defiance. So it came from this sort of need to defy and be visible, and also to mock sort of binary gender roles. So what is this troupe of performers' role in the narrative? They're sort of promoting visibility and disabilities through drag. So drag syndrome's goal is to challenge negative ideas and to promote positive ones about drag, but of course, most importantly, about disabilities. Their goal is to challenge your perception of what people with disabilities are capable of. As Daniel Weiss in the clip talked about, they are committed and excited about their art. So what do we know about these two aspects? Down syndrome, which is also known as trisomy 21, and this means that there are 3 copies of the chromosome 21 rather than just 2. It is also the most common medically caused disability in the world, and it affects about 1 in 1,000 children born, or 1,000 births. And it also has an incredibly wide range of challenges in communication, emotional regulation, and behavior. And I underlined wide just because it's, as the video mentioned, Down syndrome is sort of different for every person, which affects their independence, their medical needs, their support needs, and so on. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's definitely very different for each person. So in terms of drag, it's incredibly fluid and interpretive. And so what I put here is more of the generalizations. So drag is a person who wears exaggerated dress and makeup for of a gender or persona. So this could mean a drag queen, which is commonly a male dressing as a female, or could also be a female that sort of exaggerated dress. And then there's a drag king, which typically is a female dressing as a male. But again, for drag, there are no hard and fast rules. So I've seen drag aliens, I've seen drag androgyny, I've seen drag impersonations, and so on. So it's more about the exaggeration and the mocking of it, rather than a gender, or a person. So visibility and discrimination. Both aspects of this troupe are very visible. So Down syndrome is characterized by a distinct facial shape, which can undermine their social acceptance and cause isolation. And I'm sure we've all seen or heard of instances of bullying for people who look or possibly act different. So it's maybe not hard to sort of make that connection for people with Down syndrome. And similarly with gender nonconformity or queer identities, they're still experiencing stigmatization, and sometimes there's legislated oppression or lack of protection. As you heard in the video, visibility is their goal. Unfortunately, if you also look at the comment section of that video, you'll see a lot of sort of negative ideologies about what the capability of these performers are. The most common one that I read was that they're being manipulated, that they're being abused, and a lot of negativity rather than considering them as autonomous and wanting to create these characters and this performance. So this part really made me sad because there's an overwhelming instances of babies being aborted shortly after being diagnosed with Down syndrome. And there's one country I read that even had like 100% of diagnosed unborn children were aborted. And so that's sort of, again, that misconception of what the actual life of a person with Down syndrome might look like versus the sort of idea around it of it being sort of horrible and you're crippled by your disability. So information from healthcare providers, so doctors either had outdated information, so they weren't up to date on what we knew about Down syndrome. They either emphasized the negative aspects of the of the condition, or they actually encouraged the family to terminate, because they were sort of a proponent of why the family did so. So the reasons a child was aborted, so the reasons the families noted of why they made this choice, was 92% of them thought that the child would never be independent, 90% of them thought that the syndrome would be too severe, and then 83% of them thought that the child would be too burdened by their disability. So again, that sort of negative ideology about what the disability might actually look like. And again, I mentioned there's very few things that they can say as fact when diagnosing an unborn child. So you can't really say whether it's going to be a burden or negative or anything, because you just don't know that. It's impossible to know. So about the positive, sort of the can attitude, and you'll see tons of also videos and sort of posts or whatever online of people including Down syndrome, and then it's just that inclusive attitude and how they can really add something to a community. So when a group of people that actually have Down syndrome were asked about their quality of life, 99% of them said they were happy with their lives, and 97% of them liked who they were. So they didn't think of themselves being crippled by their disability. They actually enjoyed their lives and liked their lives and liked themselves. So the best and easiest way to be an ally is to sort of promote these inclusive spaces and resources. So inclusive spaces is exactly what drag syndrome looks for. They want to perform at places that want to sort of align with them or align with their values. And then also the right support. People with Down syndrome can actually prosper throughout education and social life and just life in general. And again, it varies in how much support they'll need due to the variance of the actual syndrome. So it really depends on the person and what needs they have. So before I wrap up, I wanted to remind everyone that March 21st is actually International Down Syndrome Day. So whoever you acknowledge it, maybe even watch some of Drag Syndrome's videos. They are amazing and hilarious and real fun to watch. But I also wanted to close out with a quote from their website that I think really ties in with what you've been hearing about. So the starting point is art. Before Down syndrome, before extra chromosomes, before disability, before anything. So that really speaks to their goal is to express their art. They're just providing a space for people with Down syndrome, but the most important part is the art that they perform. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and if you are interested in checking these fabulous people out, you can find them on Instagram and Facebook. So be creative, be well, and try and enjoy yourself indoors, and thank you so much again.